Hi, everybody. Welcome to our channel, Scientology Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher, and this is my co-host, Janis Gillham. Grady, how you doing?
I'm good, but I'm all blurred.
Because you moved too close to your camera again. You got to go out and come back in. So go ahead and do that real quick.
Oh, dear.
Exit out and then come back in. You'll be back. It's all right. We only have 2 people in here watching right at the moment, so it's not a big deal. Anyway, we want to welcome you all to our channel, and we want to welcome you into the chat. If you want to, ask any questions, just write question, put it in the chat, and I'm going to bring Janis back in right now. Here she is. There you are. You're back in focus.
G'day, everybody.
We're having a very windy day here in Las Vegas. I mean, it's like 50, 60 mile an hour winds, so it's pretty crazy outside. But anyway, that has nothing to do with the out of focus camera. Just whenever Janis leans in, it goes out of focus. So that's what happens with that. Anyway, hi everybody. Hi everybody. We want to welcome in Learning About Life. How you doing? Good. Thank you for joining us. And then we've also got Jehovah's Witness Apostates. Hello, Janis and Mark. Welcome to the channel. We're gonna do a live Q&A with our guests today. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce them, and then we're just going to chit-chat while people get in here for the live stream. But anyway, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Scott and Karry Campbell. How you doing, guys? I'm going to do this way.
Mark.
There, now we can see you.
Hey, there we go. We're doing good.
Yes. And just so everybody knows, there is a boomerang behind Scott's head. There we go. But Scott, you got to get more. You got to match mine. What, I've got 2, 4, 5 up
I know.
there.
You have a whole display back there.
Anyway, everybody, get in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. Okay, and we'll pull up your comments as we go along here. Like I said, we've already pulled up a couple, but yeah, people are joining us here. We want to welcome you to our live stream with Scott and Karry Campbell. And just to recap what Scott and Karry's story. We've done several. I think we've done 3 or 4. I can't remember if it's 4, but I think it's 3 for sure.
4
interviews with Scott and then with Karry, and about talking about their time in Scientology and the Sea Organization. First on the flagship Freewinds, on the Scientology ship Freewinds down in the Caribbean when it first started, and we went over life on there. But then we also then got into the darker stories, which had to do with how Scott was basically locked up in a cabin under guard for weeks, and then eventually was let go to PAC base in LA, and then he was not in his right mind, and so they locked him up again, and then eventually took him to a cabin in New Mexico at a remote location, pretty much against his will, kidnapped him against his will. And that had to basically fight for his life, and eventually through the help of Karry, they were able to get out and get away and start their life over outside of Scientology. So that's just a recap, but if you're interested in seeing the videos, I'm going to put a link in the description for the video after this if you haven't seen them already, and so you can click on them and watch them at your convenience. So we're going to open this up to questions and talk to Scott and Karry here, and we got, hi Maria, how you doing? Maria Dillard, thank you for sharing your story. They want to thank you, Scott and Karry, and
thank
all
you.
that
Thank
and
you
stuff.
for your interest.
Okay, and we'll go ahead, and we've got a question here right away. If you've got a question, just write question. It makes it easier for us to spot it and put it up. Also, if you want to super chat or super sticker us, of course, you can do that if you like. It helps donate to our channel. And then also, please subscribe. We appreciate that. Anyway, here's a question from Jehovah's Witness Apostate question. Scott and Karry, did you know Quentin Hubbard? How did his dad treat him on the Apollo?
That was, Quentin was earlier than us, so we were not on the Apollo. We were on the Freewinds, but Janis knew Quentin Hubbard.
Yeah.
And how his dad treated him. So she should answer that question.
That's right. Go ahead, Janis.
I knew Quentin from, in 1962, my parents went to St. Hill, and when my mother returned, she arranged for us to be pen pals with the Hubbard children. So my brother, sister, and I and the Hubbard children, Diana, Quentin, and Suzette, not Arthur because he was too young, were pen pals, and we'd write back and forth. And then when I was 10 and I moved to England, the Gillham children and the Hubbard children all played together. And we would play cards, we would play jacks, we would play the game Risk. And while we're doing that, Quentin would be an airplane flying around the room, while we're trying to roll the dice or something. He was very much into airplanes and pretending he was a plane. Then when we went to the ship, the Hubbard children were pretty much ignored by the dad, by Ron Hubbard, except for when one of the stewards would say, hey, you should have a family dinner, and arrange to have the whole family having dinner with Mary Sue and LRH. And that's when then Quentin would have dinner with his mom and dad and his siblings. But that only lasted a short period during the 8 years that I was on the ship. Quentin was treated well with his father. There was only one time I really saw a bad situation, and that was where Quentin had tried to commit suicide, and he was knocked out from sleeping pills or some sort of pills, and they got Hubbard, and he went down to the cabin to try and get Quentin to throw it up and take control of the situation. And that's when Hubbard assigned Quentin to the Rehabilitation Project Force. With Mary Sue, instead of having him assigned to the Rehabilitation Project Force, she kept offering to audit Quentin herself to handle whatever his issue was. But Hubbard kept saying no. And so Quentin went to the RPF despite Mary Sue's pleading. And also Quentin had also tried to commit suicide another time and was put in a mental institution, and the Guardian's office had to get him out and get him back to the ship. So there was a history there before the final Las Vegas incident in late 76, I believe it was. So
wasn't he? Oh wait, where's later than that? Wasn't he at Rifle by then? Because you told the story about Hubbard finding out about Quentin's suicide.
Yes.
So wasn't he at Rifle? Would that be 77 or 78?
Late 76. He just moved to Rifle. I was still in Clearwater because I remember Quentin coming up to me and telling me he was going on a leave and was going to LA and saying goodbye. And he never made it to LA. He only made it to Vegas.
Now in Vegas, he successfully committed suicide, right?
Correct.
Yes. And, well, he was still alive when they found him. He was at the airport on Sunset. There's a place where you can drive and pull up and watch the planes take off. And that's where the car was found, with, a pipe going into the window to suffocate him.
Right.
But he was still alive and was in the hospital as a John Doe when he was brain dead by then, and they pulled the plug.
Right. And the rumor was that he was gay, right? And this might have been the point of contention between him and his parents, and that he was conflicted about that. In the organization, it's basically the Sea Organization in particular, that would be something that would exclude you from being a Sea Organization member, correct?
Right. Now, there was one gay person on the ship. Well, there's been more than that, but there was one in particular who had said that he had had an incident with Quentin, a gay incident with Quentin.
Oh, okay.
And that is where this whole thing has started, saying Quentin was gay. Now, Quentin did have a feminine side to him. He wasn't real masculine, but he also had girlfriends, and he lived with one of them for at least a year. They lived together, and rumor has it that when she went off the ship for an abortion, it was Quentin's.
I see.
And so he did have girlfriends. He hung out with a lot of girls. He didn't have any, you know, he hung out with David Mayo and Jeff Walker and Otto Roos because he was a class 12 and so were they. But I don't know of him actually having a boyfriend.
I see.
You know, and I know like when I was younger, I was probably 15, 16 at the time. Quentin used to hang out with me and, you know, the different messengers. And he did say, he said, if I get ordered, I have to get married. I'm either going to marry you or Annie. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, but that was before this person said he had a gay affair with him.
Oh, I
you know,
see.
but I never personally talked to Quentin about it. And when he was alive, I never even thought of him as being gay.
Right. Right.
So,
You know, the sad thing is, though, that this is L. Ron Hubbard's, you know, child, who basically, you know, is so troubled that he's, you know, trying to take his own life, you know, and that's really
Right.
sad. You know, and it was one of the things that I, you know, when I was in, you know, you always have this conflict, you know, like Hubbard would say one thing, right? But then you would see in the real world that things were different. In other words, like he was, you know, supposedly knew what, you know, the second dynamic and family life and all that should be, right? But yet he had a terrible family life. He treated his kids not like a normal person would treat their kids. He wasn't terribly close with them. And it you know, it just was a contradiction. And I could never understand that because when they were older and I was dealing with them, they were not well treated. I mean, they were not respected. Other than the fact that they had the last name Hubbard, you know, they were in lower positions. You know, I had to deal with Arthur Hubbard when he was sent to the RPF out at Happy Valley and tried to escape. And, you know, it just was very sad because, you know, L. Ron Hubbard was not perfect, that's for sure.
Right.
yeah, well, the kids had no choice of their own as to what they wanted to do. I mean, Arthur's the only one who has accomplished that. And even on the ship, LRH used to encourage Arthur's artwork. And even as a kid back at St. Hill, that was encouraged. But the others, Diana used to dance. She was an incredible dancer, but then she ended up as an officer on the Avon River at 15 years old.
Wow.
So she could not pursue that, you know. But Arthur, he is still pursuing his, and he is a great artist. His work is incredible, what he does.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, here's our next question from Love Food Kitchen. Hey, Love Food Kitchen, thank you so much for joining us. Who looked after the Hubbard children? If Ron didn't pay them attention, did Mary Sue? Was she their caretaker? Was it like other kids where they just had an assigned adult but left to their own devices?
All right. At St. Hill, they had a nanny. The nanny did all their laundry, did their sewing, and made sure that they were fed, that type of thing. Mary Sue spent time with the kids. She would go down to Arthur's room. She'd put him to bed. She'd read to him at nighttime, you know, and she'd check on all the kids. So she was a mother. Then when we were on the Apollo, the kids did go and see her, but they didn't see her a lot. They ended up kind of taking on their own lives. And Arthur, however, was much younger than the rest of us. So Arthur was assigned to Des Popham. Des was the L. Ron Hubbard transportation in charge. So he cared for LRH's boat and his cars and his motorbikes. And Arthur was his assistant. And Des pretty much became Arthur's father. He was his fatherly figure and took care of him. If Arthur got in trouble, Des was the one that handled him. When it came to liberties, because Arthur's parents, you know, they either worked or, you know, they didn't take him with them. It became Des and his wife, Joyce, their daughter, Claire, myself, and Arthur. We were like a little 5-member family, and Des and Joyce would take care of myself and Arthur and Claire, and we'd all go on liberty together. That was our little family.
Okay. Thanks very much for that question, Love Food Kitchen. Next question is from Elizabeth. I recall on the Apollo, they performed overboarding. Were overboardings performed on the Freewinds? Thanks for sharing your intense story. That goes to you, Scott and Karry.
You know, we did actually see that a couple of times, but they, you know, it was only when some visiting exec, like for example, Norman Starkey oversaw a couple of overboarding ceremonies, but they didn't have the person actually jump overboard. I mean, I think the lowest point of the ship was, close to 40 feet off the water. What they did was they had them jump into the swimming pool in full uniform, and it was a ceremony, and I hereby commit your sins to the sea, and then the person would jump in, and that was supposedly a way to handle the person,
They didn't throw them into the pool, they just had them jump in.
They had them jump in, yeah. But there were people security guards there to enforce that they would go in,
Yeah.
I don't think they ever had to manhandle them to get them to go in. But
it's basically meant to humiliate the staff member in front of all of
exactly.
In front of his other peers and all that, and make him look bad. And it's really a shaming incident, and it's not right. But anyway,
right, yeah.
They could have used the Jamaica door.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. That would have been good. But I don't think they couldn't have fit as many crew members there as around the pool on the prom deck.
True.
The door would have been good. That's true.
Okay, thanks, Elizabeth, for that question. We appreciate it. Next question is from Maria Dillard. Question, Scott and Karry, how did your experiences affect raising your children? Thank you for sharing your experiences and speaking out.
Let's let Karry answer that first, and then I'll jump in afterwards.
Okay.
So we were very hands-on, but letting the kids do what they wanted to do, and we weren't as controlling as and structured as a lot of parents, I think. When we figured out that we were gonna have kids, we found out we were pregnant, we were like, we're gonna go do homeschooling because we didn't agree with a whole bunch of stuff that was going on with the public schools. And once you have that experience with Scientology, and it's supposed to be really, really good and helping mankind, and you get betrayed like that, it's very hard to trust a lot of other entities to take care of, like your children or yourself. So that's kind of, it definitely affected us tremendously along that regard.
That was it. When we came into the Sea Organization, we didn't trust anybody. It was like being shot from a cannon into outer space. We didn't trust Scientology. We didn't trust the secular world. Any organization that was set up ostensibly to help, we were just like, nope. So what we wound up doing with the kids was we did what they call radical unschooling. We didn't teach them anything. We read to them, until the point when they would start reading back to us, and and we taught them. We did teach them different things, which are, Scientology techniques, like word clearing, how to look up and understand the definitions of words in the dictionary. Because that's crucial for being able to understand anything that you're reading. And, some different techniques that are promoted in Scientology. And what is a course of study, for example? What does it consist of? It's the origin, background, and history of the subject, the underlying theory, the practical application of the subject, and then the actual practice of the subject. And I can tell you, by the time our kids were 12 years old, they were completely self-directed. And to give you an example, my older daughter, Sabrina, she didn't go to any other school until she started college. And in junior college, she got 2 associate's degrees. Then she transferred into Purdue, and she got a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Organizational Psychology. It included all kinds of labs, bio labs, all the different math, algebra, statistics, all the different things about organizations and how they work and how the people fit into organizations. She got straight A's the whole time. She was on the chancellor's list the whole time. She graduated summa cum laude with highest honors, and it was because she had a personal necessity level to learn the stuff. And I think that's really the essence of learning, and I really liked it. I mean, it was scary at times because you get worried if they're how they're going to do when they get into an environment like that, but they thrived in those environments, And,
Scott, did your kids go to public school?
Not at all.
So
No.
they were homeschooled the whole time, or private
The whole
school?
time.
Yep.
Homeschooled the whole time.
The whole time.
From the moment
That's
of conception,
great.
I was reading to them.
till when they went into college, and like I said, they're both get straight A's the whole time in college. So Sabrina got her degree in IO psychology, and she's been married for like 3.5 years. They bought their first home, brand new home in a brand new development when she was 24. So anybody that says that kids can't afford to succeed and become homeowners and stuff like that these days, I don't believe it. I mean, Veronica.
How many kids do you have? How many kids again do you have?
Sure.
Two.
Two. Okay.
Two. Sabrina and Veronica, they're 5 years apart. Veronica's 20. She graduated from, she did, 1,500 hours?
16.
1,600 hours cosmetology school. Graduated from that, worked as an assistant at a nice salon. And then, so within a 2-year span, she's working as a stylist at Ulta Beauty, and she's thriving, and I'm actually happy with the way things went. I wouldn't change anything because of the decisions that we made, having experienced what we had in life,
That's great. What I was going to ask, what did you tell your children about your time in Scientology, if anything?
Oh. Well, we told them eventually we told them about everything. And they were like, oh my God. So they had that. But nevertheless, like say, for example, when we started speaking out, Karry's family disconnected from us, That was back in 2010. And they've been disconnected from us ever since. And that's mother, stepfather, brother, and sister, right? And so that was a big loss for our kids.
Yeah.
And they were super upset about it. But Veronica was, only 7 at the time. So Sabrina was 12. Sabrina, it kind of hit harder.
Yeah.
So, in order to help her get through the upset and grief of the loss of half of our family, we actually had her go to a Scientologist auditor, Trey Lotz, who's outside of the church. He's an independent field auditor. And she had a couple of sessions with him, and she got over it. She was able to talk about it and get relief. And so for her, it was a good experience. And so she looks at it like maybe not as skeptically or critically as Veronica does, because she saw that it helped her, but like this is what I say about it. I try to differentiate between the subject and the organization, and then even the subject. It's like you could use it to help somebody or you could use it to harm somebody.
Yeah.
And it was used to help me and also to harm me tremendously. You know? And you know, that's the bottom line really with any subject. In the wrong hands, it can be used to harm someone.
Right. And Scott, I have a question. You are currently getting audited, is that correct?
Yes, by Trey Lots.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And what are you getting, the grades, Scientology grades?
Yeah, I'm on grade 4 right now, which is the grade leading to the state of clear. And it has helped me tremendously.
Well, that's this question here from Jehovah's Witness apostate question. Scott and Karry, did you keep any Scientology beliefs like reincarnation? So you're getting auditing right now from a field auditor, right? Somebody who's outside of Scientology organization. Yeah,
that's
independent field. Yes.
Yeah. So what just to finish my previous thought, what I say about that is how it has helped me. It has helped me to get rid of unwanted compulsions that I had, get relief from them, where they let go of me. You know, like I used to take drugs and stuff. I smoked pot and did cocaine and different things, mushrooms, LSD, and drank alcohol. It helped me to the point where, you know, even when I stopped, I didn't have a certainty that I would never abuse those things again. But, you know, Scientology helped me obtain relief from that uncertainty where it was just gone. The compulsion to do that was gone.
How'd you get in the SEALG if you'd had LSD?
You know, that was, so Jeff Porter apparently he was the guy that did my sec check when I arrived to route into the Sea Org. He apparently decided that it wasn't LSD and, you know, that, it must have been some amphetamine or something, you know.
That's what they did back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, Hubbard didn't like anybody who had LSD, so they go, well, what were your symptoms like? Oh, that couldn't have been LSD. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
That is what happened. So,
And his stats are up for the week.
yeah. So, you know, I mean, it was that they wanted me. So, you know, whatever that said, they figured out a way around it, you know. As to the question, the reincarnation thing, I mean, you know, I don't really want to talk about it in detail, but I can tell you.
It's really a faith thing. It's not a physical scientific thing. It's faith. You either believe that you're that or not.
No, he said
it's faith. Faith. It's like faith.
Oh, okay.
Like faith that heaven and hell is faith.
If you believe it or not.
Faith. There's no proof in it. But if you have faith that it's there, then you can believe that, you know, and it's the same with reincarnation. It doesn't have to be a, you know, provable fact. It's just something that people believe or don't believe, one way or the other.
Well, I'm reading a book right now called Proof of Life After Life.
Right.
I'm in the middle of reading that.
I've heard of that book, actually. You know, but I can tell you how real it is. Actually had something that I cleared up that was from way long ago. You know, back in the beginnings of the physical universe, and actually was able to find the person in question in the incident and bring that person and introduce them to Karry and everything. At which point Karry realized, oh yeah, this is the person. So we had a mutual understanding between 3 people of a previous existence. And it's something that we're absolutely certain of, you know, so, and it's kind of a rare thing. Most of it is subjective and based on unconfirmable memory. But, you know, this was something that needed to occur in order to resolve the problem, and it did.
Right.
Let me go to the next question here. Go ahead, Janis.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to talk more about reincarnation in that, you know, in Scientology, after my mother died, I had so many people bring their babies to me and kind of shoved them in my face to say, do you recognize her? I think this is your mother. You know, it was like,
Oh my God.
That's funny.
Oh boy.
Well,
Yeah.
I can say something that's not from Scientology, it's from Buddhism. But at one point, the Buddha said, the reason to be kind to each other is because we've all known each other for so long. There is literally no one who has not been dear to us at some point in our existence. And isn't that a nice way to look at your
Yes.
fellows? You know, and if reincarnation was true, and everybody accepted it as a universal fact, what kind of world would we want to leave to come back to?
Right.
You know, I think we would
Right.
treat each other and treat the world better than we do now, you know?
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Can I go to the next question, Janice? I'm going to get
Go
some viewer
ahead.
questions in here.
Go
okay?
ahead.
All right. So this is from Elizabeth for the panel. Curious, after Scientology, do you enjoy sitting in a sauna, or does it bring back memories of the purification? Janice? Janice?
I still sauna.
You own a sauna.
I own two. I have a sauna in my gym, and then I have a blanket sauna, which is so much easier to use than having to go sit in a gym or in a sauna, because in the blanket one, I just leave it laid on the couch, climb in, turn on the TV, and watch TV while I sauna away.
Yeah, Janice told me about this the other day, and I'm going like, don't you sweat? I mean, you know, she goes, oh, I just bundle up and the dogs lay down next to me and it's like a sauna. I said, I've never heard of a blanket sauna. I've heard of a blanket.
It's an infrared sauna, and you plug it in and it all heats up and you sweat
To me,
away.
it's an electric blanket.
I go in the sauna at the gym, but for like half an hour or something, or 20 minutes, you know. It's when in Scientology, when you do the purif, it's 5 hours. And,
Yeah.
So it's like an ordeal to get through.
When Paul first passed away, and I'd come home to this empty house, and I'm like, what do I do? I went in the sauna, and I sat in the sauna for like 2-3 hours just watching different shows, you know. Wow. It was like, because there was nothing to do in the house, no one to talk to. I was on my own for the first time ever. Right. So, you know, married 41 years, and then being in the Sea Org, there was always people around. And right. I suddenly had to get used to no one around. Only a cat, and that was it.
Did the cat come in the sauna with you?
No. But then I ended up getting 2 dogs, and I have them to keep me company.
I have a cat, and you have 1 cat.
We have 2 cats.
Yeah. All right, Janice. So here comes the next question. All right. This is from Peace Dog. Hey, Peace Dog. Thanks very much for being here. We really appreciate you watching. Question, Scott, was Black Dianetics practiced on anyone else besides yourself? And just briefly, Scott, explain what Black Dianetics, the definition, what that is. Just briefly.
Black Dianetics is a form of hypnosis where the purpose of the hypnosis is to essentially destroy the sanity of the individual. There's an article that L. Ron Hubbard wrote about it, and the opening line is death, insanity, aberration, or merely a slavish obedience can be efficiently effected with the use of Black Dianetics. You know, so it's basically used in Scientology to take out an enemy. And you know, I don't have personal firsthand knowledge of anyone on the ship being targeted with Black Dianetics, although there were several people that had psychotic breaks and were confined to a particular space before they were sent off the ship to whatever fate afterwards. And then Merrill Veneer, who wrote the book Arrows in the Dark, he was subject to black Dianetics by someone that we all personally know, and but just to say that Merrill and this other individual got together and resolved that situation, because the person that did it to him was under orders to do it by Norman Starkey. So it was.
There you go.
There it is, right there.
Yeah.
So and I don't know what to say about Lisa McPherson. Hers wasn't particularly black Dianetics, but it was somebody using Scientology in a way that triggered a psychotic break in her. And then she was treated essentially the same way I was. She was confined to a space under guard. She was given, diazepam and chloral hydrate in order to sedate her. But one of those drugs makes you more susceptible to hypnotic suggestion, and the other drug makes you forget what happened after a traumatic experience. So, the people that used that stuff knew that those were the effects of the drug. And in fact, L. Ron Hubbard knew that those were the effects of the drugs. And he writes about it extensively in chapter 17 of book 2 in Science of Survival, which is entitled Hypnosis. He writes about black Dianetics extensively, and even details where he undertook experiments in black Dianetics at the Foundation Organization in Washington, D.C. He decided that it was so destructive that it wouldn't be something that would be useful for them, other than circumstances where they felt they had no choice, And I think it was Miscavige that decided to use it against, ordinary people and in the organization,
Okay. Thanks very much for that question, Peace Dog. Next question I have here is from Jehovah's Witness Apostate. Question, Scott and Karry, did you keep any Scientology books?
What's that?
Did you keep any Scientology books?
Yeah,
I did. I have them. They're in a box in the storage room. I didn't throw them out.
Yeah, we have, I think, 3 or 4 boxes of ones that we felt would be maybe helpful to refer to that we couldn't find like on the internet.
What we do is Karry and I both like helping people, and that includes Scientologists, and the thing about Scientology is that it's something that if you've gotten into it and become familiar with it and it became part of your life, a lot of people would think in those terms. They're conversant with the terminologies and the techniques of Scientology, and they're most comfortable with that. So if you want to help somebody, and that's the thought system that they're most familiar with, then it helps to have the reference materials, because that's part of the thing that they would want to see in order to avail themselves of any needed help.
Okay. Yeah, I kept mine because when I first left, I still thought I was a Scientologist, and then I just held on to them for reference. I haven't looked at them in years. Janis, you got a whole library to your left, don't you?
Yeah, but a lot of those are old editions that I've been selling off them. That had been my parents. Yeah, like when my dad passed away, I went through his garage and it was just boxes and boxes and boxes, and and of tapes and books, and I ended up donating them all to Trey.
Oh yeah.
So Trey probably has a whole storage room of thousands of books and tapes and stuff there. It's like, what else do I do with them? Trey could put into good use.
Oh yeah.
Well, Janis, you sent your daughter down to the Las Vegas organization to donate them, and they wouldn't take them, right?
Oh no.
No, they did. They did. She goes down there with a whole carload of all the basic books, and they're all boxed, never used. She takes them down. they're like, oh, who are these from? And she says, oh, these were my grandfather's, Peter Gillham. And they take him and give her a receipt. The next time she comes, someone else deals with her, takes him, gives her a receipt. And then the next time, I mean, we're talking, this is 3 carloads of books. The next time, they take the books from her and they wouldn't give her a receipt because we would use it as a tax write-off, as a donation to a nonprofit.
Right.
But they had her out back and sitting there while they were talking, and then it was like they didn't want to have to deal with her because though she was not a Scientologist, she was related to a declared SP. Because I did this while he was still alive. I got rid of some of those stuff. I was like, you don't need hundreds of basic books all the same. So we may as well just give them back. Sure. So some people put them in the trash, but
meanwhile,
I got a funny story about
destroyed them.
I got a funny story that when I left and I reconnected with my father and my brother were declared in 1978, and I had to disconnect from them until I left Scientology. But I didn't reconnect with them until like 92 or 93, right? But my brother told me a story, and I was horrified because I still was a believer at the time, but even though I was out, right? He said, oh, yeah, after we got out, we got declared or whatever, and we were living up in Lake George, New York. It got really cold in the wintertime. So Dad used the tech volumes and the OEC volumes as firewood. And I was like, oh. Oh, God. Thank you very much for that question. Let's go to another question here. Let's see here. I went past a couple. Where is it here? I don't want to miss anybody here. Okay, got that one. Okay, here we go.
While you're looking,
I got it. Here's from Lenny Freeman. Question: Scott, do you suspect agents provocateur had infiltrated the church? Witness arrows in the dark.
I have suspected that at some point, where, I thought that perhaps someone had gotten to Miscavige. Perhaps around the time of the IRS settlement, between Elrich's death and the IRS settlement, him and Norman were dealing a lot with the government. I'm sure you know about that, Janis. And who knows what happened? Somebody could have made him an offer he couldn't refuse, and you'll have lifelong immunity in exchange for becoming an informant to us or whatever. And in fact, Merrill said that at one point, David Miscavige was listed on an FBI website as an informant, and and that the site had since been taken down. But so that would have happened, I think, and with Sherman Lenski and CST and former IRS attorneys and different people. Look at what has happened to our government and other governments in the past. They've been infiltrated. The church, in fact, infiltrated our government. The largest infiltration of our government in history was perpetrated by the Church of Scientology. So certainly the same thing could happen to them.
Yeah, but I don't believe it. Growing up in it, being around Hubbard and being around Miscavige, I don't believe it. It is Miscavige on his own. It's not, no one has infiltrated him and made him do it and be an informant or anything like that. Yeah. I just don't even believe it.
Okay. Well, you're close to him. What do you think, Mark? Do you think that's a possibility?
I don't have any opinion on. To me, it's like, no, I really don't. I mean, I don't really follow like conspiracy things like that in terms of, I just know that when I was there, who I was dealing with, and they were the ones in charge.
Right.
Right. Yeah. They weren't in touch with other people. They were the ones making the decisions.
Right.
Okay, next question here. This is from Jehovah's Witness Apostate. Question: Scott and Karry, were you friends with Janis's parents, with Peter Gillham or Yvonne Gillham?
I only knew Peter in passing. You know, we knew who he was. We never knew Yvonne, but
Well, she passed away in 1978.
yeah. So we didn't get into Scientology. I didn't get in until '85. Karry grew up in it, but we didn't join the Sea Org until '85.
But you guys came to the birthday party I threw for him in 2016.
We knew him afterwards at your parties and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, he was a great man. I talked to him several times at those get-togethers, and boy, oh boy, he was a powerhouse.
Yeah, very, very intelligent. And when I was in, in LA on staff, we'd go over to his vitamin shop and get the CalMag, which you now sell.
Yes.
Right? So because it was very effective for, enhancing your sleep. And of course, that is used for multiple different functions of the body and very vital. So, yep.
I should use you to advertise for me.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, though, he actually, I'm not sure if it was him that was there because I was in such a hurry, but somebody put together the formula. They were in bins at that point in time. So they would be measuring it out and putting it in a container after I told them what I needed it for.
Oh.
So I don't know if it was your dad or somebody else that was helping me, but that was way back when, I don't know when that stopped or whatever, but.
Yeah, because that must have been around 1980.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still buy the Natural Calm and use it to this day.
Natural Calm is not my brand.
Well, I know, but I mean,
that's what it was called.
We can't remember what's it called under your Outback Naturals.
Koala Calm.
Outback Natural Koala Calm.
Okay, we'll say Koala Calm.
Or you can get it from
the label on our bottle still says Natural Calm.
If anybody watching wants to order some Koala Calm, just go down below. It's tagged as one of our products that you can buy in our merchandise store. Janis, tell them what it's for. Finish the commercial, Janis. Tell them what it's for.
Well, it helps you relax. It's anti-stress, and it's just magnesium, and the Koala Calm, and we have it plain, and we also have it flavored in apple cinnamon. But my dad's old store, Peter Gillham's, or we have a new label called Peter Gillham's Life Essentials. They also have it under the name of Magnesium Supreme.
Oh, okay.
So those are the labels I suggest: Peter Gillham's Life Essentials or Outback Naturals to get your magnesium products.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So anyway, people, if you have any questions, please write questions in there so that we can continue asking them. In the meantime, we have this comment from Love Food Kitchen. We're getting a unique insight into the conversations Mofo and Janny have when the cameras are off. Blanket saunas.
Did they call you Mofo?
I'm Mofo Mark. That's my nickname by Miss Gavich gave me to OSA. That's how they refer to me, as Mofo.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're Mofo and she's FOMO.
Yeah, we actually incorporated it into our merchandise. You can get a Mofo Mark T-shirt or a Mofo Mark coffee mug on our web on our merchandise store.
There you go.
Yeah. We decided to embrace it because I am a mofo.
Yeah, why not?
That's right.
Anyway, thanks for that. Let's go down here. I think some more questions have come in here, and here we go. All right. This is again Jehovah's Witness apostate question. Janis, did your dad still believe in Scientology after he left?
Yes, he got into Scientology when he was in his early 20s, probably 26. He got into it in the 1953. So, and he was one of the best lecturers on the subject of Scientology. And even though he left Scientology, he left because he had disagreements with the operation and how they were running things. But yeah, to the day he died, he still believed in Scientology technology and Scientology beliefs. And he was coming back.
And that's well within anybody's prerogative. If they want to believe it, they can. If they want to believe in whatever, I mean, we're not here to say whether or not it's right or wrong. Everybody has their own opinions, and we're not here to judge them for that. If they want to believe in Scientology, that's great. If they don't, that's okay too. What we disagree with is the abuses, like the things that were done to Scott and to Karry, particularly the things that were done to Scott, where he was locked up against his will, drugged, and all that sort of thing. That absolutely is not okay, and that should never have happened. So that's the difference. Right. Anyway, okay. Next question is here. Jehovah's Witness apostate question: did any of you meet Kirstie Alley or other celebrities in Scientology? Absolutely. Go ahead, Janis.
Well, my mother was the person who started Celebrity Center back in 1969.
And we have videos on that on our channel.
Yeah,
we can watch them.
We did some with some celebrities, with Robbie Levin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we still got to do Jeff Levin. They were from the music group People, and they had a #1 hit song in 1967, I believe it was. Anyway, so my mother started Celebrity Center, and when I would go visit her, I would get to meet various different celebrities as Yvonne's daughter. And yeah, I knew.
Who are some of the celebrities you met? Can you name a few?
John Travolta and his parents in the parking lot of the old CC on 8th Street. Oh. And I even went and saw him when he was filming Welcome Back, Kotter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, well, who else have I met? But that's just so many, it's just not coming to me right now, because I'd spend my 3-week leave hanging out at CC. I knew Wings and Cass Warner, and I knew Cole Hauser when he was just a little boy. And, Jeffrey Lewis.
Yeah.
And then I met lots of celebrities because I worked up at the Golden Era Productions at the Secret in Base. We did music albums, and this is all during the Battlefield Earth, Mission Earth, when Hubbard was still alive. But I met and worked with Edgar Winter, John Travolta, Frank Stallone, Leif Garrett, Chick Corea,
Amanda Ambrose.
Amanda Ambrose. But then also I actually was there the day that David Miscavige met Tom Cruise. I met Tom Cruise, and I was there, and that story is covered. We have a video on that, the day that Davey met Tommy, and I tell that story. So, we were around it quite a bit, but it was just in passing and just doing my duties. That's how I met them. How about you? You guys meet any on the ship?
On the ship, let's see, we met.
Well, Travolta was there.
Travolta, I had to pick him up from the airport a couple of times. Yeah, he seemed like a great guy. He was super interested in the engine room, and he wanted to see that. And he came down and visited with us and hung out and talked about, his experience with with jets and jet engines and aircraft mechanical systems. And he went to all of those schools because he wanted to not only understand how to fly the plane, but how the plane worked, And then Jeffrey Lewis. He came to the ship several times. And also he would come down to the engine room and hang out with us in the control room and tell us about his movies and working with Clint Eastwood and things like that. And then Chick Corea.
Chick.
And his wife, Gail Moran. Gail loved Karry. Gail had really long hair, and so Karry has really long hair. And Gail would always run to greet her and say, "It's my favorite head of hair in the world." and it was a weird coincidence too, because Gail used to live in the same apartment building that Karry spent some of her childhood growing up in Manhattan, and so they knew each other, just tangentially there, but and then to see each other later on in life after so many years have passed. So, yeah. And then Maxine Nightingale. Maxine she was fantastic. What a powerhouse. We loved watching her perform and stuff. And she was great. she was really fun to hang out with, and so it was fun to meet some of those people,
On the Apollo, that reminded me, on the Apollo, we would have celebrities come.
I should say one other. Lisa Marie Presley lived on board the ship for, I don't know what it was, 6-8 months or more.
Yeah, while she was pregnant, she found out she was pregnant.
From Danny Keogh, and then Karry had gone to Apple School with a bunch of people that wound up becoming actors and actresses,
right.
And also with Lisa Marie Presley, during the time she was at Apple School.
Not in her clique, though.
Yeah, they didn't hang out together or anything. It was different people.
They were like, no, you can't be a part of us. I'm like, okay, fine.
All right, I'm going to go to the next question here, okay? So
Mark, I was just going to say, on the Apollo, we had a couple of celebrities. We had Mike Heron from the Incredible String Band. He came from CC, and he actually became a very good friend of mine. And then Milton Costello came and was working on his film Butterflies Are Free with Hubbard, working on it with him. And actually, I was a messenger on watch when Milton was in there, and LRH calls me in and says, and introduces me to Milton. And Milton says, your mother told me I had to find you to give you her love. And so Milton told Hubbard, he says, I've got to find Janis I got a message from her mother. So
that's really cool.
Okay. All right. So now I'll go to the next question now. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So this is from Paul Katz. Question. Don't remember who said it. Was Napier hated by the Freewinds crew?
I don't, he probably came to be hated, but for virtually the entire time that we were there, he was a super nice guy. And, I befriended him when he first arrived in the Sea Org. He was a fish out of water. He was terrified of being, out of his element and in this new organization. And, we became friends and stayed friends the entire time that I was in the Sea Org. I'd regularly go up and hang out with him in his office, and we'd talk about, what was going on in the orgs and kind of strategize about how to get through different evolutions and stuff like that, And he was a genuinely nice guy, but I heard later on he became kind of a tiger because of the income demand pressure that was being put on him, and it was a very punitive type of thing when the pressure is coming down from international management to squeeze more blood out of the Scientology turnips, as it were.
And just so people know, Mike Napier was he was the captain of the Freewinds, the ship, and he still is. He's the one who was the licensed captain that ran the ship. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'd heard the same thing. And when I was there, he was liked. But then as time went on, he got more and more vicious and following what DM's insanity of how to deal with people.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, let me go on to the next here. We've got a comment from Elizabeth. Comment, Scott, I hope you were finally able to mourn your grandmother and reconnect with your family. The event that occurred before everything went so dark and abusive for you and Karry.
Yeah, that is true. And it's interesting, too, because, the period of time between when I found out that she had passed and had subsequently gone into a psychotic break, and when I came out of the psychotic break was about 15 months, right? And that was the thing. And during that time, I totally blanked out on the fact that she had passed away. And it wasn't until the end of that time when I finally was able to spit it out and say she died. And all the grief came out of me then. And then I was able to reconnect with her passing, and And like I said before, when that happened, the whole psychotic break and everything it was just over. It's like you turned off a light switch, you know. Then I was back to normal, and then I was able to go back and reconnect with my family, and you know, begin my life again. You know.
Yep. Okay. Thanks very much for that comment, Elizabeth. All right, we got a question from Love Food Kitchen. Was there ever a rivalry between the Gillhams and the Gaymans over selling vitamins to Scientologists? A sort of vitamin war? Did the Gillhams corner the U.S. market and the Gaymans rule in Europe?
Oh,
There was not a rivalry because David Gayman actually helped my dad start up. So, but Dad ended up starting it in the U.S. and David was in England. So yes, the Gillhams had the U.S. market and the Gaymans had the Europe market.
Did you know Neil, Janis?
Neil was just a young little kid when I was at St. Hill. So we had no real connection. You know, I was like a 10-year-old and he was much younger.
I see.
So, yeah. But I knew David and Sheila.
Sorry. Neil is a famous author. Neil is a famous author, science fiction author, Neil Gaiman. Yeah. And
I did write to him, but I never heard back. So obviously I'm on his do not associate with list.
Wow. He's missing out.
I saw him at the Orange County Performing Arts Center. He did a presentation there, and I was impressed with his not only his accomplishments, but his speaking ability and his imagination and everything.
I knew his sister Claire because she worked in the Mission Network when I was Watchdog Committee member for the Mission Network.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is Jehovah's Witness apostate. Question: Karry and Scott, when were you on the Freewinds? When you were on the Freewinds, did it have asbestos?
Oh yeah, it had asbestos.
Yeah.
You know, there's this whole kind of thing about, you know, that the crew was exposed to toxic levels of asbestos, and you know that there are going to be mesothelioma claims against the ship and stuff like that. I don't think so. I mean, whenever we had to deal with it, they spray it over everything, all of the substructure, you know, the steel bulkheads, the beams that support the decks, everything, and then it's coated with a hard encapsulant that contains it, you know, and you know, so removing it, they call it asbestos remediation. They're removing it is highly procedural. You have to wear the correct level of protective gear. You have these spray nozzles that put out a really fine mist of water vapor. When you take off the encapsulant, you have to spray the asbestos with a type of deionized water that gets it real wet right away, so it's not putting off the asbestos dust. You have to put it in special thick bags, 10 mil thick plastic bags. It was,
double bag it.
And we did all of that, you know, so those claims, you know, the reason why it costs so much is that it's very labor intensive to remove it, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, according to our friend John Brousseau, they spent millions of dollars removing it, you know. So
I was going to say that my father died of mesothelioma. He was in the Navy in the 1950s, and before that, apparently, while he was in college, a couple of summers he worked at an asbestos plant, you know, loading asbestos or whatever. And so, you know, they didn't have the protections back in those days. They didn't think there was anything wrong. So anyway, he died at 66. You know.
Yeah. So he had a long-term chronic exposure, and then once you have suffered that long-term chronic exposure, it still takes like 20 years for the mesothelioma to.
Oh yeah. Well, my dad died when he was 66, and he hadn't been in the Navy since, you know, he was on a ship the last time he was like 30 years old. So it was a long time afterwards.
Did you guys have a family claim and get a settlement?
No, because we didn't know at the time. They didn't know what mesothelioma was. All of a sudden, all these tumors showed up in his body, and he
Yeah.
had stopped smoking 25 years before that, but they didn't know what it was, and he died instantly. Almost one, they just showed up, and then years later they talked about mesothelioma, and then my uncle said, oh, he worked in an asbestos plant, but also the Navy back in the 50s,
Right.
back in the early days, the Navy, they didn't cover the asbestos, it was just
Right,
open to
right.
everybody. So it's just a different circumstance or situation. But anyway,
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next question here from Jehovah's Witness Apostate. Question: Janis, how did you have a relationship with your mom's parents? Were they Scientologists?
Okay, my mother's father died before I was born, before my mom even met my dad. So he was out of the picture. Her mother was still in the picture, and when my mother's name started showing up in the press fighting the ban on Scientology in Victoria, her mother basically disowned her. And so when we went to England, we had, from the age of 10, I had no relationship with my mother's mother. And she pretty much just disconnected from us and disowned us. But then one time in 73, when I was on leave, I found my mom had gotten back in touch with her mother, but her mother was not doing well. And she was she was getting on in her years. But interestingly enough, the day my mother passed away, my Nana went into a coma and stayed in that coma for 2 years, at least 2 years. But it was interesting that it was the day she died, so she never knew that my mother had passed away. But she definitely did not like Scientologists and was not a Scientologist.
Okay, right. Thanks very much for that. Elizabeth, Karry, I cannot recall if you already said, do you still have family members disconnected in the Church of Scientology?
Oh, yeah. My mom, Karen Downing, my stepdad, Steve Downing, my sister, Deborah Raff. She's now married for the fourth time?
Third or fourth time.
Anyway, and all of her kids, I think she has 6 or 7 kids. And then my brother, Robbie Downing. So they're all still in. And they're all they moved away to be in Florida, so that they weren't, tempted to see us.
And let me ask you,
connected from Karry and Karry's brother, Buddy.
Well, let me ask you a question. Your children were never Scientologists, so were they allowed to have a relationship with their grandchildren, meaning your children?
Before that, yeah.
Yeah, before
they disconnected.
Before they disconnected.
They lived out here, and they would see us all the time. As a matter of fact, Karry's stepdad.
Oh, okay.
Karry's stepdad used to come every week and teach our kids classical music appreciation, and her mom would come down frequently, and we'd have dinner and family get-togethers. The rest of her family, her sister and her family who were in Florida, they would fly out every year and spend Thanksgiving or Christmas with us, or sometimes both. We were very close, and all
go ahead, Scott. I'm sorry.
All it took was one word from Osa, and they disconnected.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So I assumed that they disconnected from you when you left the Sea Org, but what caused them to disconnect? When was that?
When we spoke out on Marty's blog sometime in 2010.
Oh, okay.
Soon
when
after,
first started speaking out against Scientology and the abuses that you
soon after
suffered.
Karry's mom sent a disconnection email to us, disconnecting, on behalf of the whole family. They actually showed that email on Mike Grinder's show, the Aftermath show with Leah Remini. They showed the letter that Karry's mom sent to us, just to show, because in the letter she said, do not attempt to communicate with us unless it's through the Office of Special Affairs, the Scientology Office of Special Affairs.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, we have reached the end here. We're just
Yeah, I
about
want
an
to
hour
ask
and 10
you. I
minutes.
want to ask you one question, Mark, if it's
Sure.
possible.
Yeah.
You know, Miscavige would come to the ship every year for the maiden voyage anniversary. Were you privy to or involved with his prep for those annual visits at all?
No, I never got to go to the ship. I never was involved in anything with the ship. That was all Mark Yeager and the different people involved, like Janis, you know, who was getting ready for the maiden voyage and things like that. My responsibilities were really at the Gillham Hot Springs Gold Base. That's where I was involved with.
I see.
Yeah, I never got to go anywhere.
Aw.
Oh,
Never saw the ship. I actually never went into the Hollywood Guarantee building. You know, we bought it in international management. Everything. I never once have set foot in that building, and I would, you know, they was there for years. You know, it's just I was stuck up at the base all the time.
yeah.
Handling tapes and e-meters.
Yeah, and music and films and you name it. Anyway. All right. Well, we've reached the end here. I wanted to thank Scott and Karry, of course, for being guests of ours. We want to ask you, please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. It helps us get the word out, and we appreciate that. And also click that like button, rock slam the like button, as Janis likes to say. If you have any questions that we missed or any comments, please mention them down below in the comments section. We check them all the time, and you know, we look forward to hearing from you. And then finally, if you would like to donate to our channel, you can buy us a coffee. There's a link down in the description of the video. Just click on that link and you can donate to the channel by buying coffees for us. And it's kind of a cute way to donate, but the money we get really just goes back into the channels, but we appreciate any support from everybody regarding that. Janis, have you got anything else that you would like to share or say before we get done here?
Just that we're going to start doing more lives, and next Friday we should be doing a live with Jackson. We don't have the time established yet, but we love, you know, answering the questions. So please come and join us and ask away on questions about gold with myself and Jackson and Mark.
Yeah, Gary Jackson Moorhead, the former head of security at the Gold Base, who's Janis has known since he was a little kid, and I've known him for years too. And Love Food Kitchen says, so glad the lives are back. So much prefer lives to pre-recorded videos. We're trying to do both because sometimes the schedule with some of the people, we need to record them, but we'll be trying to do lives as well. So we're going to be doing those at least once a week. And we hope you all will join us, and hope you enjoy the content.
Very cool.
All right. If it's not anything else, I just want to thank all of our viewers for watching. And until the next time, we will see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.